Salad. Dessert and coffee.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our first council workshop on Orono Festival Days. I'd like to invite everybody up to the table who wants to come to the table. If you want to sit in the audience, that's fine. If you want to sit back there in our seats, that's fine too. We are streaming it. Is that right? We're streaming it on YouTube?
It's just a Zoom meeting, so it's not
Okay.
being broadcast.
Oh, all right.
So
It's okay.
you're gonna get a
Sorry.
little less out of Dan.
A little less tan exposure, but that's probably okay. So I'd like to just kind of go around the table and do introductions. I'm Dan Demerit. I'm too new to Orono to know what Orono Festival Days is, so I'm gonna lean on a lot of other people. I'm on the town council and on the community development committee, and we'll go this way.
I'm Megan Mazzella. I'm the Parks and Rec Director. I'm Andrea Hardison. I'm one of the counselors.
Mitch Stone, I'm the assistant town manager.
Back there in the back,
I'm student at OHS and with or like 5 Page Street.
this is my son Finn, so.
I am Jamie. I work at the university and I also live on Page Place.
Nice.
My name's Jack Moose. I'm an Orono resident. I only lived here about 70 years. And I belong to the Giza group. We walk Mondays and Tuesdays, Mondays and Fridays, I'm sorry.
I'm Rachel. I grew up in Orono.
Jeff Wingard, live on Cromwell Drive. And yeah.
Linda Doherty, live on Mainwood Avenue. I've been here over 40 years. I'm Debbie Averill. I live on Main Street and I'm president of the Orono Health Association Board. We operate thrift shop and food cupboard.
I'm Natalie Wright. I'm a resident and parent.
Mike Faulkner, I'm the operations manager for Marsh Island Brewery.
I'm Matthew Powers and I'm on the town council and also on the community development committee.
I would want to point out, I do apologize, there's always something going on in Orono, and tonight's no different. So it's spring break. So there's some people who aren't in town tonight for spring break, and we want to acknowledge that. We are going to have a meeting with folks from UMaine. Hey,
That's Jim Rose.
Jim Rose is here. We just got done doing introductions, so. But apologies to people who are out of town because of spring break. And also tonight is the Orono School Orchestra, which we weren't aware of, or I wasn't aware of anyway when we scheduled this. But tomorrow night's planning board meeting and so on and so forth. So, but we'll make sure to get the word out and invite people to have ideas. I think the purpose of the meeting is one, we have a council goal as one of our we're set a set of municipal goals for the council for the municipal year. And one of those goals is community engagement, and that includes developing a budget and plan to reestablish an Orono Festival Days in the fall of 2025 and annually thereafter that celebrates our community, welcomes new residents to our neighborhoods, and creates greater belonging for everyone who lives, works, and learns in Orono. This is our first. We have a budget. We're starting our budget process in the town. So there, I don't anticipate, fire truck money going behind this event, but we are going to develop a budget to help support the development of this. And so we need to have numbers and ideas in place as we finalize our budget, which we'll do at the end of June. And my hope is that we, through our brainstorming tonight, we end up kind of putting together a group of people who want to kind of help steer this, and then we get the help that we need through town staff, through dedicated volunteers, and potentially some kind of event coordinator to steer this through. But we'll talk about that together. Anybody have any other thoughts or questions as we? Okay. I'd love to start with an Orono Festival Days history lesson. That was one of those that when I campaigned for the council, still new to Orono, I heard a lot about Orono Festival Days, and I mean, you look at the posters and you can see why. There's so many, like such a great tradition and opportunity to celebrate the community and bring people together. So I'm wondering if folks who had Orono Day experiences would be willing to, I guess the guy who's been in town for 70 years maybe could go first, but
Oh, the one that I remember really, I think it was tied in with it, was the sesquicentennial. And I was just a young kid there, and some of the pictures I've seen, you can see me at one of the tables eating hot dogs. And the Native Americans from Indian Island, back then, Cowboys and Indians were the movies that we'd watch at the Arnold Strand when we were just little kids.
sure.
And they all dressed up in war paint and had war bonnets on and their bow and arrows, and they came paddling down the river
Sure.
and attacked us in a mock battle. And all us kids, that was a big thing.
It was,
And then they sat at the table and ate hot dogs with us after and stuff.
yeah.
What year was that, Jack?
Oh, it was the sesquicentennial. I think it was 1954 or something, somewhere around there. 54 to 56.
I'm not sure the actual festival days go back that far.
Yeah,
I mean, I worked for the town from 74 to 82. And I want to say 80, 81. I don't, Megan, do you have any idea?
So just for the posters, the one that's just immediately to my left here says 7th annual in 1984. So that means they started in 1977, 76, depending on exactly how it fell there. So that around 1977, just based on some of the posters will indicate that it's the 7th annual, the 10th annual. So someone made note of that. So it's just an estimation, right? Around that time.
It may have sort of launched off of the 1976 bicentennial stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember back then that it was always Orono organizations that really were trying to introduce their services and their activities to people in town. The entertainment was local, kids from school did the band kinds of things and sang and did that kind of thing. And then the businesses, particularly on Mill Street, had something that they served. I think Pat served hot dogs and the store did lemonade and ice cream, and there were no commercial enterprises that came into Orono to do that. It was very much a local kind of activity. Library had a used book sale. And the churches did food sales. I remember Alice Smith making about 400 pies, which Alice Smith did regularly. And for 2 years, I know one of the last Orono Festival Days, Dewey did a chicken barbecue. There were fireworks in Webster Park. And for a couple of years, Deb Lees and I did a vegetarian dinner at the Tough Church that benefited the community garden. We served vegetarian dinner to up to 100 people. Overall, it was very much a local community activity.
And it was in June, wasn't it, or?
Yeah, it was not.
After school was out.
After
Yeah.
school was.
Yeah, sort of beginning of summer, that,
yeah.
and there was the fun run too, there was always.
Oh,
fun.
yeah, I remember doing a
And a
canoe
pancake
race for the Boy
breakfast.
Scouts.
And a
On the river.
pancake breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah, fire department always did breakfast, pancake breakfast. There was usually a yard sale over here in the parking lot.
Who ran the show? I mean, who kind of called this meeting and, who was
Terry Morrow, didn't she for a long time?
Terry did it for a long, long time. Terry Morrow.
Morrow.
There were a
Not
few
very
years, the Daughters of Isabella did breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know the rec department was involved, because I worked for the rec department, and we had to do stuff. So, like, I had to work Saturdays. Festival day, that was the only Saturday I ever worked.
Yeah, the fire department used to have, you could, pat the fire engines and talk to a fireman.
Terry is.
Harry has passed away.
Thank you.
So that model stopped working though after a while, we found, it just it faded. And I think part of it is that there's fewer local businesses in downtown. And so there
Right.
wasn't the interest there, and then
Well,
didn't it get moved to fall for a while?
yeah, and the attempt to bolster it by bringing in food trucks from other places, I think sort of took away from people going to local restaurants and businesses to get their food, because food was, you know, you could stand up and eat food on the street. And there was some indication at one point that that folks who worked for the town were really kind of being overtaxed by the efforts that were, you know, it was a lot to ask them to do. I'm not sure whether they were doing the coordination and that was the problem, or, but you know, as I remember it, there wasn't a lot of work on the part of folks, because it was the organizations in town who set up tables on the street and did that kind of thing. But, you know, we do have more, we do have locally owned businesses now. And, you know, I think some of them would be willing to do what they did before. I mean, it wasn't that they were doing anything extra or giving anything away. They were simply serving something on the street.
So you pay for your hot dog and pass.
Yeah, you paid
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
Paid for your
It was just-
lemonade and,
Self-promoting.
yeah.
Awesome.
I brought Rachel because she was one of the last generation of little kids to like run around. And so I dragged her out. But because I couldn't remember the kinds of like young kids activities that went on, you know, there was bounce house games, like face painting, like all that kind of stuff. And in the last iteration of Festival Days, a lot of that relied on university organizations, fraternities and sororities and teams and stuff like that. And that would really be nice to loop them back in. So, excellent.
We used to always have there was often a parade too in the morning to start off or whatever. But there was, university, I think they still have a marching 100 band up there. We've got a band, but once I remember Shriners came in with their little sports car thingies. But I expect they have to be paid.
Better go with 25 an hour.
Yeah.
I didn't do my homework, but I have a fat file here that I borrowed from the town. I'm Nancy Marks. I've lived in Orono my whole life pretty much. So I'm the most recent director of the Pie in the Sky race. So
The Pie in the Sky race?
Pie in the Sky race, the road race. So yes, I read it down. But it needs a new benefactor, so I would like to bring it back. It was always a fundraiser, and the group at fundraise for no longer is fundraising. So anyhow, I had borrowed some files from the town that were planning information. So I have this big folder, and it's like the 87.
How'd the race go? From 1987 up?
No, these are files from 87 up for the festival, which had. The race was sometimes part of the festival.
Ah.
So I borrowed these as some resources for planning for the race. Post, after the festival we had stuff. So I'm returning them.
That's
but
incredibly
also I'm
lucky.
like, oh, look, there's a debriefing file right there. And what worked and what didn't in 2014. So
Well, you guys can all go home. We'll just use the files and just bring it up.
exactly, between the files and my files on the race. Yeah, and so just to kind of throw in an angle, my sort of understanding through the grapevine was that there was sort of a bit of a rub, let's say, and maybe it was part of the having the food trucks coming, having places selling food from out of town, and that combined with walking off Mill Street,
Right.
I think there may have been some like, hey, we're not selling anything because we're giving stuff away. And people are like, yeah, we go there all the time. We're gonna go to, you know, a food truck, or we're gonna go do something else, or it's too crowded. So I had hoped, you know, pre-pandemic when things were kind of, I was getting my feet under me with this race. I had designs, like I had this idea of, okay, let's bring the festival back into the race, which is typically in early September. The last sort of regular scheduling of the race was the weekend after Labor Day.
Weekend after, I'm sorry.
After Labor Day weekend.
Sure.
It was like the second weekend in September usually, which had some benefits and had some real drawbacks, but the idea being maybe we can pull the festival back, but in this area, because the race typically starts at the elementary school, goes up the hill and various places. And so kind of moving it off of Mill Street or having multiple locations, but putting, you know, if you're gonna block off a street, instead of doing that, use the elementary school parking lot. So that's a way to kind of.
How long is the race?
So there's usually a 1 mile fun run and a 5K race. And the most recent path would go up the hill and then come to Main Street and go out Bannock and go to Winter Haven, thank you. And go around the cul-de-sac and come back to Noise, go up Noise, cross Forest, and go behind the school and come back behind the school from the little path and down the hill again. So everybody starts the race going up the hill and everybody finishes coming down the hill. Again, that also had advantages and disadvantages, like Main Street and Bannock is a little hinky, but it was a good race. It's fun.
What's the pie in the sky?
So I don't know how it started, but whoever started the race had this like, I imagine it was like, oh, I have this pie in the sky idea. So the name stuck. But it started out, it was the earliest I know of, it was a fundraiser for, what was it? It was might be cross country. It was an athletic.
Yeah.
One of the sports teams. And they gave it up for whatever reason, and it landed with Oscar, the Orono Schools Coalition for the Arts, which has gone dark. But so we had it for quite a few years. And it was a really good fundraiser for us.
Yeah.
We used it for our scholarships and other things sort of throughout the years. It's our one major fundraiser.
That sounds fun.
It's a lot of work, but in a short time frame.
Yeah.
I'm not good at like fundraising or getting volunteers, but it had traction.
Yeah. Excellent.
And I'm interested in bringing it back, so.
Neil, so we started, Neil, you want to introduce yourself? You want me to do it for you?
Leo Kenny.
Yeah.
Grew up here, down currently.
Handsomest man on the Orono Town Council.
Went to some of these Orono Festival Days.
Yeah. So we were just kind of talking about history lessons, kind of how it started, and we figured it was since about the 1977 or so, based on the 60th or 70th year annual. So gonna get good feedback on your sense of how they came together, when they came together.
It seems though September would involve student populations a whole lot more than June. And, you know, that seems like something we would want to do, is to encourage our students to be part of our community. That seems right. And maybe we could, I mean, I like the idea of different venues. But maybe we could ask our businesses whether they would want to do what they did before, or do something, the businesses that weren't here when there was Orono, Festival Days. you know, what they might want to, you know, I don't think we're asking them to give anything away.
Right.
You know, we're just asking them, you know, would you wanna, you know, would Pats wanna do hot dogs on the sidewalk? Would Roberta wanna do lemonade on the sidewalk?
Mhm.
You know. I don't know whether you're allowed to do beer on sidewalks.
Yeah.
No.
Stay behind the ropes. Stay behind the ropes.
Gotta stay
Yeah.
behind the ropes. But, you know, we have adult beverages in town and we have non-adult beverages in town, so.
I'm just curious what you guys would think of. I like the idea of like downtown stuff to bring people to downtown. I don't know what the businesses feel about closing downtown. One thing I do like closing off Mill Street. One thing I'm curious about is what do you guys think if it was if the center of gravity was moved to like Webster Park? Would that be, what would be the downsides to that and what would be the upsides to that? Would that be like, yeah, there's, you know, parking, people would have to walk,
Yeah, parking.
people would have to walk there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not accessible for those who are less able-bodied.
And
I'm just curious, cause I think it's
you
like,
have to have a lifeguard if you've got well, that close to the water.
I brought around the flyer to a few of the businesses.
Yeah.
And definitely, I don't know what's been discussed about vendors and stuff, but it's Pat's and the Bean and the woman from the Bean here, I guess she's not, but she seems like she did this in some of the towns, some similar thing, but a couple of things they expressed were, one is, I think they're referring to what we call the event last year,
Orono Arts Fest.
Arts Fest.
Oof.
That was, wasn't Artsapalooza? Well,
No, it used to be Artsapalooza.
It's named to protect the innocent, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
they said, they said, not out back, not out in the parking lot. We want it out on Mill Street like it. And both of them also said, and no outside vendors. Let's make this about
Mhm.
our town vendors. My feedback was, well, maybe no outside vendors unless they do something different, but it might be just safest to be, let's support our, you know, to
Yeah.
be thinking about but I think, I don't recall, and I was around for the time since it stopped and businesses, my recollection, didn't dislike this. We ended up having a hot dog stand in front of or right next to Family Dog. And that was the problem. That was the rub.
Yeah.
So it was one thing, and understandably on the vendors, on the proprietors
Yeah, that makes
issue
sense.
that,
Yeah, I mean,
hey, what are we doing bringing hot dogs into my front yard here? So.
Well, and Pat's, before Family Dog, Pat's used to do the hot dogs.
Well, they did, I
behind-
mean, they always they always sold slices and
Yeah.
stuff too, so.
Yeah.
And we
that-
have
you know,
plenty, we
Their
have plenty
analogy
of
would be
vendors.
like pulling up a pizza truck in front of Pat's. which
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
probably what they
It
do,
doesn't seem
but-
to make sense.
I like downtown, so you think the businesses would be up for that? Mill Street? I really like it. I think that, I mean, I remember back when we first moved here and it was really cool that you could walk on Mill Street.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I just wasn't sure how to.
My sense is that, and I went into Taquerita and hair place over there, and they're all like, Taquerita was like, oh, thanks. And I think done that way, I think they would, you know, really like it. And I have, no one said anything negative anyway, but.
I feel like downtown is really the best location to do it, like, because that is like really the sort of core of Orono, the rest sort of like drifts off vaguely instead of the like really like Orono, like downtown. I feel like that is where we really want to show off the most.
I agree.
And if you involve the Orono restaurants and whatnot, you stretch out the day, if you're going to the pubs for night, you know, there's maybe music at your place and music down the basin, and so you could have a stretched out day. Maybe combine the arts festival with Orono Festival Days, make it one big blast.
The Orono, sorry, I looked at that, checked the website. The Orono Arts Fest is scheduled for the 20th through the 22nd of June. So it's, you know, it's almost like a bookend of summer. Yeah, I think you can have the Arts Fest. in June. And they did it in the middle of summer, this, because, we were rushing to kind of bring it together. And she did a fantastic job organizing it, but it was also sort of the dark side of the moon in Orono. I love the seasons of Orono, right? I love spring break week. I like when it quiets down for a week. And, but MJ Sedlock she's doing it the 20th and 22nd through the 22nd of June. So that's
Yeah, I will say if we consolidate the Arts Festival and the Orono Festival, I feel like we'd be losing a lot of the incoming students, which really comes down to, do we value their, or having more of the incoming students participating, or do we want to have it be a bigger festival combined with the Arts Festival? Like,
my sense, when I was younger and probably didn't have much sense, was that that having it in June was kind of the point, was that's the dead time, like, or the quieter time. And so it was sort of a push to bring more business to a quiet time of year.
Yeah.
So I think doing it when school is in session versus when it's not are two different animals. So it might be a very different flavor or a different type of event. And maybe it's two events. Maybe there's something that's during the summer and something that's not.
Yeah.
I know for volunteers, for course marshals for the race, it's really helpful to have sports teams from the university come and they can get service hours, training hours. So I like doing the race like early in the school year because of that.
Yeah. All hands on
and
deck.
it's cooler than June, but I'm a doubtful. So yeah, I think it's just, and I guess and maybe I missed this in the very beginning, but what is the primary goal?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, the goal is, we had talked about it for a second in the beginning. We had, kind of the purpose of the meeting was, we have a council goal. We set 4 goals and kind of reiterated our support for a couple of our service promises at the start of the municipal year. And, one of those goals has to do with community engagement, and we narrowed in on developing a budget and plan to reestablish an Orono Festival Days in the fall of 2025 and annually thereafter that celebrates our community, welcomes new residents to our neighborhoods, and creates greater belonging for everyone who lives, works, and learns in Orono. So that's a council goal, and we were having a workshop because we want the community members to help shape it. And there's a lot of room within that, I think, to come up with a plan. That was 7 people who voted on that. We're a community of thousands and thousands of people. So I think there's a lot of room to kind of reestablish and reimagine what Orono Festival Days is. The council, and our goal was, we did kind of want to have an opportunity to kind of bring everybody together in Orono, because frankly, we have, we know we have some we're a very transitional community, transient community where we welcome thousands of new people into our community, into our neighborhoods every year. And we've thought about, we hear there are frustrations about just the grind of having to once again kind of establish expectations around, this is, we stop at crosswalks, we, drive safely. Residential neighborhoods are different than, big apartment complexes. And so thinking about how could we systematize that with an event where we purposely invite and reach out to people and use it as a chance to build some relationships and do some education and start the year off on the right foot. So.
I like
Deb?
Well, I went to the university, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow up on that. The arts festival was what I remember of, it took up parking places in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And for an Orono Festival Day, you would want those parking places so that people could then walk over to Mill Street or, walk to the various businesses. And the other thing that surprised me a little is there were a lot of arts people at that event. Most of them, there were some people from the university, some kids from the university, but there were a few organizations, but like, for instance, the Health Association would have done something had they been asked, but, you know, part of Orono Festival would be that we'd like to let people know what we do. And, you know, how we support the community. And, Festival Days would be perfect for that. And having them in September would mean that the students would be here.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not in favor of putting the Arts Festival in the parking lot because that means that there's no place to park, even if we do it in the center of town.
Sure.
You know, people have to be able to get to what we're doing. And for the Arts Festival, I know some of the businesses told me that nobody never ever went to Mill Street from the Arts Festival. You know, they didn't go to the businesses, they just went to the Arts Festival and then went home.
Yeah.
And
Leo, then Ben, did you have something too?
I was gonna say, so if the goal is integrating students into the community as a like major part of it, I would say something which we should probably do. A lot of the students that are coming in will be students who are from like out of states and like are coming here because of like Maine's environment. So we should definitely have at least some some support to like showing people around the hiking trails, the area, something along those lines. Because they'll be coming here with mixed amounts of like experience and like starting to engage with these like areas.
I like it. Leo? Yeah.
I would say that that's one of the goals and after posting this on the site and hearing from so many people that I grew up with or that were younger than me that I know from Orono, so many people reaching out saying, oh, that was the best. So such great memories when I was a kid.
Yeah.
We spent the whole day over at ASA, then we come over here. I think integrating university, bringing them over, that's part of it, but I do like the idea of focusing on making it fun for kids.
Yeah.
As well. I think that's a huge goal of mine with this, so.
Yeah.
I thought what I was gonna say
We
before.
could reopen the pool for the weekend.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Drink a bucket of water.
It might be a little chilly. It does tend to taper off real quick.
Remind me to ask you for an update on that. 'cause
But
we
to follow
came
up
too up with that one.
on Finn's idea, the Orono Land Trust could offer, you know, to show people the trails.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there could be people at the trailheads showing people where they are,
Yeah.
you know. Jim could take people on bike things.
So I was gonna say, yeah, I think we should have reasons for people to come downtown, and it could be people with kids, or it could be students or anybody. And then when they're done, hopefully they go to businesses to have beer or dinner or whatever. And there's lots of groups that do things all the time, like the Orono paddlers, if they had the war canoes on the river. We wanna promote the river, cause that's an asset
Yeah.
here. So like involving the Orono paddlers, I mean, we do bike rides on Saturdays anyway, so anyone could join us and we could just have it part of that. And then you'd have a run for the people who like to run.
Yeah, get in the way of the bikers, but whatever.
Have we, have we ever had a pub crawl here? We have 3 different.
Yeah.
Right, we've had them through UMaine come through, but I haven't been here since the festival's been going, so.
Unofficially, I could say yes.
Yeah. Same night.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we could have something like,
The pubs.
like
will
a thing where
be
people
around the
come
street.
and get like a flight of, you know. of
Right, yeah.
this stuff, and then they could walk to the next something, I don't know.
Say you want.
Sorry.
I just turned.
We need the
bug this week,
barsicle
So
to
it's
take
super
people
exciting.
away.
Number 66, if everybody's in there, needs the mug, but,
Even without, I mean, even aside from
That's a side thing.
pub crawl or potential, you know, rides associated with that, it might be good to have some kind of shuttle coming from the university, or from Orono,
Does
something.
the
that
bus
just
run on
people
Saturday?
can
Does the
drop
bus,
off and,
doesn't the bus run on Saturday? The university bus?
the university bus does.
No?
It depends on whether school's in session. And
Does the Blackberry Express doesn't run on Sunday?
Fridays.
And it does a bigger loop, so it's
Yeah.
not a direct back and
I mean,
forth.
maybe that becomes part of the budget request. You know, if a group is formed and we start to generate ideas and we really look at the geography of the town.
Or maybe the university has a bus they can run back.
We don't have our own list. We
You got a bunch of Priuses, right?
fund part of we partially fund
The Blackberry Express. We get them to, maybe we get them to run it on
on that
on the Saturday, yeah.
I'm sure.
I have a question for the pie in the sky race. One idea I've had, and I don't know if this is a good idea, and I'm totally fine with it being tossed out too, if it's just not functional, would be a like a gown to town run where we start at the university, get them involved a little bit, get everybody, and so the race, the 5K part maybe starts, the 1K could stay here in town and make a loop, but maybe the 5K starts at the university and ends in downtown, so that like we're like, hey, we're here, we're part of the community and you're part of the community. We want you to be here and we want you to start here and we're gonna end up in this cool place, you know, where there's a party. And I've always thought that that might be an interesting like way to integrate and get college students to be involved in the race and to come downtown at the end and say, oh, yeah, this is a great place. And I don't know, because I've never coordinated a race at all. I just thought that might be interesting.
I like that idea, and that would be the direction to go, because you would want a uncongested single file coming over the bridge, because that would be the sort of the most nerve-wracking part for these guys, you know. You wanna do it, but other than that, I mean, I'll have to.
It's just an idea, let me know.
Yeah,
And
really. Then you could start at the rec center or someplace. where
yeah,
there's
that's what I was thinking.
Indoors and you know, restrooms and a place for shuttle bus to.
And there's a lot of
turn
parking
people.
over there too. And then
We are recording this, right? So we'll get notes from it, stuff. Yeah.
I would say from unofficial anyway, it seemed like the pie in the sky was where I saw the most people coming from the college to do that run. Some would come in town a little bit, but it was more kids games and stuff like that, it felt like, so. That to me was where most came, and I think that's a really good idea, I think, to group there. And then end them over here, the bus will run, you can get a ride back, I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right, so everybody has a business, you're sponsoring, right? I will be calling.
I've talked to
So the
college.
running group that runs out at Newman Hill, what?
Yeah.
Are you aware of them? I'm guessing that
I can
they.
get you in contact with some of the people who are involved now, or you can, either way.
Yeah.
I don't think I know that group. But, I know, you know, sub 5, they really love the pie in the sky race. They would be the ones going, okay, so when are you doing?
So are you committing to organizing the race again? You said you dropped it for a few years. Okay.
With help.
Yeah.
I think what we should do is it probably circulate an email list, and then it doesn't mean that you are volunteering for anything, but if you want to put your name next to something you're interested in, that could be helpful for kind of follow-up conversations. And we'll have a recording of this and we'll download it and get a transcript in terms of the ideas, the brainstorming and stuff that took place. But in terms of it's 6:39 and being mindful of time and things. I feel like we've got a good, I feel like I heard a lot of good ideas in terms of elements to retain from prior oral, like elements for the kids, the race, partnership, supportive partnership, you know, the Mill Street, the village being the anchor with coordination with business owners to make sure it's an event that works for them and doesn't in any way compete with them. Feels like something that's important to people and can avoid, you know, why avoid. Let's not sell hot dogs. Let's not bring in a vendor to sell hot dogs in the family dog parking lot. But any other elements that you think we oughta, this is the 6:40 mark of the meeting, just so I say that, so when I see the transcript, I can.
I have one more element that I want you guys to consider. And in many college towns that I've been at, there's some sort of art installation done by students. That is an Instagrammable situation where people go, they bring their parents, they take pictures, they say, this is, you know, this is the rah-rah thing, whatever it might be that has to do with the university or with college life. We have an art department. We have people who are interested in coordinating some sort of art thing. One idea that I would have that people have had that have been spoken to me would be maybe to paint actually the alley between the Black Bear Brewing Company and what used to be Margaritas. So just paint the ground there, and then eventually it'll disappear. And then the next year, you can get a whole new idea of people and art. So what would it cost? It would cost paint, which is not cheap. But it doesn't cost, and maybe, you know, a few days where they do the painting and then you have to let it dry, and then people can bring people there and say, look at this cool thing, and they can take pictures, and it's like, this is at the University of Maine, this is in Orono, Orono supports us. And then we would have to do nothing except tell the art professors, you got students, they got ideas, bring them to us, and then we'll pick one. And then we'll provide paint, something like that. What do you guys think? And then we could unveil it during the Orono Festival Days. People could then walk on it, take pictures and do all that. Is that a bad idea?
I think that's a great idea.
Good idea.
Fantastic idea. It's a
It
win-win.
also, it also makes people moving through like the downtown area, which like while people are there is like, that's when they're going to be like doing things like going to the various businesses and stuff like that. So I think that is a really good idea.
There's actually quite a number of townspeople that I know who have said we need more art in this town. This is one idea for it, and one that I don't think would like cost huge amounts of money, although paint is not cheap.
Yeah, it's now Bruce Farnsworth Way.
Yep,
Because we.
yeah, Bruce Farnsworth Way.
So I would think we'd wanna talk,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah.
talk with the folks at Patch just to
Yeah.
see what they thought about
Wouldn't
it.
cut down
We're
on
gonna do it.
parking,
Yeah.
it wouldn't cut down on anything like that.
And I mean, not shut down for 3 days to paint it, because that would cause an issue too. Are you thinking that?
It would.
it's done?
Yeah, it definitely would cost a few days of them painting it and then letting it dry. And so that is time, and but we want to get the businesses to be there, but I also think it might be a really good way to bring students and their families to downtown, and then maybe they would go get a pizza at Pat's since they're down there anyways. I don't know, maybe,
I don't think the world comes to an end if somebody has to go around the block to park.
right?
I mean,
It's
that's
for-
not a big deal.
But I would definitely want buy-in from businesses. That's not something that
Yeah,
I would.
Are there spaces, mural opportunities?
That we'd have to talk to business owners because they own the walls.
Yeah, one thing which I saw in the sort of like potential ideas, which I think we should consider is like having like a truck or something where like we bring in like musicians to actively play things. I think that'd be a good thing to have downtown, like actually having some music. So people will start like going there, so it like starts having a feel to it instead of just pointing them in the direction of downtown, you know?
Where was that located in the past when there was a stage?
Down at the, like where Parks Harbor, where
Yeah,
it was.
down at the end of-
There was a stage down there,
Yeah.
On a
flat.
flatbed.
But we do have the park behind the library now, music.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely live music.
And
Yeah.
Orono Festival Day used to be sort of bookended by the breakfast at the fire station and then some kind of meal at the, you know, at a time when families would need to have a meal. And, you know, there were, I mean, in previous years, there were chicken barbecues that the fire department did or somebody did. And then Dewey did chicken barbecue in the park one year. We did the supper at the church a couple of years. But the day was bookended and it sort of encouraged people in town to sort of make it a day, you know? Maybe go do an activity like a hike or a bike ride or something like that at some point, but come back and, you know, have your snacks here. And then at the end of the day, when Dewey did the barbecue in the park, there were fireworks afterwards. I know because my dog ran us all the way home. I like the
not a fireworks fan.
And that's a long way for us, by the way. But, just to have those weekends on the
Yeah.
day so that people realize that it's a day-long event. And you do lots of things during the day, but, there are things, and then maybe you sit at a table with people you never met before.
Yeah, that's a good outcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to throw out on the table and take this as someone that's run for office. I would love to see no politics.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
I don't think they're-
It will be, September would be a natural time when people stumping are gonna
Yeah,
want to do
Yeah.
that, and I,
I don't know how we'd have to talk about how we could, ask people not to.
out with,
Yeah.
yeah, for outside booths or tables.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Even if,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we could probably.
If somebody wants to wear a button,
Yeah,
Yeah.
talk to people, that's one thing, but.
And there's also that, if that's a Saturday, the steam plant parking lot would have the farmer's market in the morning.
yeah.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah, a long time ago, I volunteered as a sort of coordinator for the Rockland Lobster Fest down there. And that's like a magnitude
Sure.
bigger.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the great sort of takeaways from that is that the designated area, wherever it is, so in Rockland, it was that lower harbor parking lot. For us, it might be Mill Street. That designated area was sort of a very controlled space. If you wanted to have a booth, if you want to be a vendor, the messaging was prescribed.
Mhm.
And then other parts of town, if somebody wanted to, put a sign on their lawn or something like that, they got the exposure of people coming downtown, but we still maintained control of that space. So it became politically neutral, and
Yeah.
it was really friendly to all the vendors because they weren't competing with each other. They knew where they were. So I think being clear in how we organize the Mill Street space is going to be really important.
Yeah, I think so too. Hey, Sarah, would you mind running a sheet of paper? You have extra paper in that notebook? That's the downside of having the electronic notebook, right? I can't. Around emails and just, if you share your name and email, and then if you've got a note in terms of something you have an interest in hearing about more, again, no one's not signing anybody up for anything except for, well, nobody, but.
Extra question.
Sure.
Not late, maybe got brought up way
Yeah.
early, but one thing I remember when we first moved to town and Orono Festival Days was happening and my kids were tiny. And I have all the similar memories I heard of people running around and having such a great day. I remember really being struck by how many UMaine student groups were the people running the kids' events. I remember there were fraternities and sororities and clubs on campus. So somehow someone on campus had clearly put this out to student groups, like organize a kids event and, come lead that. And I think we see that some at Trunk or Treat now. Staff could talk about that. So they may know what those connections are. And Lisa Moran, who runs I don't know what the volunteer center is called on campus these days. It hasn't changed. Is it still the Bodwell? I would think Lisa Moran would be a good person to reach out to. But I think that was another way that students got involved, is they were asked to actually host things for little kids, which my kids loved. They were really fun activities, and it was fun to see people who clearly seemed like adults but not quite adults running them. I think my kids had more fun than they would have had me and my cohort been running them. So
That's a great idea.
And college kids really enjoy the kid things too.
Yeah.
And that's, I mentioned that I had student groups, because they get student service learning hours.
Yeah.
So at the university, the
Through
athletic
the
groups in
Bible,
particular
yeah.
need those, so.
So it's athletics that has the service learning. hours?
Athletics does that, I think, all the sororities are doing that, and.
It depends on your specific affiliation with student government, but there is truth in that, yes.
Sure.
yes.
The Honors College has an aspect of service learning
Service.
as well.
Okay, great. So we had, the Geezers and Sneakers gave Matt some great, I'm just gonna read them off for now, I think they kind of, is it okay with you? Yeah,
What's that?
the Geezers and Sneakers getting coffee, is that the same, that's what your group, right? You're part of that, Jack? So, it's some some really good ideas, turning to, can we first talk about, I want to talk briefly about Parks and Rec, and just, Clint has asked Megan to help us in terms of kind of coordination, technical assistance. Megan is very busy, with fall sports and things like that and trunk or treat, so we don't get to, you know, there's a limit to what we can expect in terms of her, you know, soup to nuts, is that what you call it, when you're running the whole show? She's not gonna run the show for us, but I think she's gonna help us with technical things and thinking about how we work with the town to make things happen. 'Cause you know how to do all that stuff, right?
Right, we talked a lot about how there was a lot of groups, everyone remembers different groups having different responsibilities, that's a big deal in something like this for the bandwidth, I think is what Dan is getting at, so understanding what the expectations are as a community, who are the players and what their capacity is, are all really big factors on what this looks like, and that changes and ebbs and flows with time, and first one might look a little bit different from the second one, but if we're meeting the same goals, that's still fantastic. So with the student groups, for instance, maybe it's not always Beta running that child's program. Maybe it's just a fraternity, right? So some of those things we can keep consistent, but allow, you know, change and people's interest to kind of naturally flow.
Excellent.
Does that help?
Again, we'll talk about, I think I'm hopeful that we're getting a strong volunteer component to kind of help organize. I know our committee is committed to doing a lot of the work. And anything that gets me out of doing dishes at the potlucks is good. I took on that tradition from Jeff, the chair of the council gets to do the dishes at the potluck, so.
That's right.
Yeah, I just don't touch my apron, you know, I use the Shaw's one.
My social battery ran low, I could just do dishes.
Exactly, like the end of the day on Sunday, like, yeah, I'll do some dishes now, yeah. So. And then fall order, are there anything, we don't want to do, I imagine we don't want to do something on, you know, move-in weekend, Main Hello, right? And then we're gonna be mindful of homecoming weekend, because that seems like it's probably not a good time. That second week of September, maybe third week of September range, is that kind of in the right range for people in terms of? But then what is I'm gonna have to lean on.
So
Yeah.
I would say the notable fall events in town, and they vary slightly, but are more or less in the same like kind of order. Right at the end of August, beginning September is moving day. Then you have Labor Day. I wouldn't recommend running something on a holiday. You just, you know, that doesn't always add up and can be challenging. The other thing that I would think comes into play a little bit is Riverfest in Old Town. In terms of who's volunteering where and who is available, I don't think it would matter for our specific residents, but in terms of gaining support, right, that could differ.
That was nice, right? They do a good job of it. They always tell us about it. Kind of why we're here, you know, went to Riverfest and.
University.
I
football
know,
games
it's
too.
just-
Football game,
What's that, Mitch?
believe it's in October, but
Okay.
I know I can get that shit.
Okay.
yeah, and I guess that leans into how far are you going, because then October is Indigenous Peoples' Day and Halloween, so. I know in the beginning that we've stuck really close to September in this conversation, but I know previous conversations, people said fall. So what is that expectation of fall? Yeah,
As I said, the Pie in the Sky was doing for quite a while, was doing that weekend after Labor Day.
Yeah,
And that worked well with, usually didn't conflict with other races. I think there's one that sometimes not did. One of the problems for that was that what is it, cross country? I don't know. There was always an event that day, that Saturday for the high school team.
Mhm.
So, which is why an arts group was sponsoring the race that, you know, that were vice versa. So, but they do their race and they come back. So they're depending on where that happens, they would often be that race. So it doesn't blow the whole day for.
does it feel like the second or third week of September? This might be along the line, it's still super nice. No, yeah. Still, if we want to do a
New race, we can still follow.
yeah, do some fishing. Can you still catch fish in September? Okay. I can't, but you say you can.
You can, and it is legal.
It is legal?
Yes.
That's kind of important.
And the weather's usually nice,
Yeah.
unless it's
I can fall out of my kayak in Stillwater anytime.
not usually cold. And it's not usually super hot. It just might be really wet.
So the second or third week of September feels like kind of what feels right.
Do you have to put a rain date? Would you do it rain or shine?
It's really hard
Yeah.
It's really hard.
on a different weekend, even when you tell people up front.
Yeah,
We should check the farmer's
So it's
almanac.
kind of one of those things where usually you gotta do it on that day and hope.
No matter what.
That's one of the challenges of being outside. If you can't, you're gonna lose people, there are gonna be people that have other plans, picking that up and doing it on another date, even if it's been told in front, that's very difficult.
If the major components have either able to happen, even if it's raining, or have a rain location, if enough things can function in the rain, I would recommend that, like the race, we've done it in, hurricane like that, so, that's something that can happen. Maybe a couple of things don't, like if you're, there might, I'm thinking it might be pared down a little bit if it were. I would sort of plan it that way, like.
Yeah.
My suggestion.
so we've got, okay, Sarah, I'm sorry.
I was
I was just saying,
saying,
I'm saying,
talk to
don't have a
other
rain
area,
date.
talk to schools and other
Right.
businesses in town that might have big spaces to be like, what can move inside if needed, and try to have plans to how to move as many things inside as necessary. Okay.
Well, and the other thing is that now, since we're not talking midsummer, it's not as big a deal, but generally, if anything that's outdoor, if it's not undercover, then it's either going to get wet if it rains, or it's gonna be hot
Mhm.
and sunny if it's too sunny, so, maybe you have, like, I wouldn't want to have a food stand and not have a cover just in case,
Okay,
But the businesses in town that do that will have their own, I mean, lots of people, food safety set up too. A lot of people have pop-ups.
yeah. So we are gonna meet with the enrollment management team and the student affairs team. We've met with them in the spring.
In the
Fall, we met with them in the fall initially, and then we're gonna meet with them on Friday, April 4th at 4 PM down at OBC. And I think we're gonna kick around these 2 weekends in September and get a feel for that, which one might be better based on whatever's going on if it won't be homecoming yet, right? They don't do that until a little bit later in the fall, but I think it feels like that could help us kind of lock in of those 2 weekends, which one's the preferred weekend. Should we check with the school too, to make sure there's nothing going on we don't win state championships in September, do we?
No.
But,
I don't think you're ever gonna find a weekend in Orono when there aren't 6 other things going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
there'll be
think if
something.
there's a game, it might help attract people too, because they can go to the game and then come.
yeah,
come to the
a
festival.
game, yep.
I'd encourage you to include somebody from events and hospitality on campus.
You know, who's,
I can give you a contact,
yeah,
Will Rivers team.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're all connected.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to them, they'll be talking, but I talk to them
Yeah.
all the time, so.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, he'll-
sometimes,
yeah. No, I
you-
get it, yeah.
certain groups get included and others are just like.
and we're not gonna run into any problems with like resurfacing the bridge or anything like that in September, are we?
Well.
You laugh.
Anything's possible, I can't tell you that we can't. I think that the answer is, we need to go back and do a deep dive in these 2 weekends to figure out
Yeah.
what problems may arise.
Homecoming is 24th and 25th of October.
Okay, sweet, so we'll be good for that, yeah. And I frankly, I like the idea, I've thought of it as almost like, I think an alliteration, it's the only kind of literary device I really know how to use. And don't ask me to big pentameter or anything, but I think it was kind of an Oreo orientation, I lived here over a year before I knew what the thrift shop, what was going on at the thrift shop, and it's it's too damn long, you know, and, I moved here not knowing anything about the trail system and stuff like that, and,
We should have a kiosk too for
Yeah.
like trail maps that the town can.
yeah, I love it.
Town activities or.
And
I'll
it's,
take Dan to
opportunities.
work it.
what's that?
I just nominated you to work.
Yeah.
it.
There'll be no politics, I promise, yeah.
I have a small ulterior, we kind of have a small ulterior motive to this too. That I don't know how to work it in creatively and organically, but to educate, you know, as Dan had talked so eloquently before, to educate college students of like expectations living in Orono, and also just other Orono residents, like you're supposed to bring in your trash cans 24 hours after you put them out, that kind of thing. So maybe there's some creative, like a trash can race or something that's creative that we can educate both new people coming in and also the Orono citizens who've been here. That could be kind of fun. So just think that in the back of your mind. That is it's not the primary motive of this, but it is an ulterior motive. that we
Run
can
on trivia,
Yeah.
you know, well, and ask questions about, you know, how long can you wait to take your trash cans in? And, you know, that's a trivia question and, you know, what do you do when you're driving down Main Street and there's a crosswalk in front of you? You know, that could be a trivia game that
Just
could
thinking
be
like,
developed.
just think of a hive mind, the hive mind way of getting these ulterior motives to where we can be better residents altogether, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? All right.
Yeah, which,
How to navigate a roundabout?
Oh, we know how to do that.
let me just drive by a room of Joe's and just like,
You
all
just
right,
go
I'm
as
not gonna
fast
wait
as
in line. No. I don't need to be the 18th car in line in a room. of
That's
Joe's.
a trivia question. Who has the right of way at a roundabout?
That's awesome.
Also stopping for school buses.
Stop for the school
When
bus.
they're
no one
going the other
stops.
Yeah.
Bus stuff. Yeah, and a lot of the new residents in Orono aren't necessarily going to college. Maybe they're, you know, they came here to work at the university,
Yeah,
or they came here to work,
absolutely.
you know, in Bangor, or, you know, new families in town and stuff like that. I like that whole kind of. And the academic, when you start a new academic year means something extra special in a college town, I think. Who else? I don't know, it feels like we've done a lot of brainstorming. I know, Jeff, if you want to talk about the fishing idea. you
One
had,
of
or
the, yeah, I'll throw this out there. One of the ideas that I've been kicking around for a couple of years, never had an opportunity to do it, is to have a catch and release fishing day on the Stillwater River. It's really, I've had a contact with people who've done these as sort of like digital fishing tournaments. So kid pulls out a sunfish, mom takes a picture of him, they send it in, we collect those pictures at the end of the day. We give a bunch of prizes to the kids who get the most fish. And it's just a way to get families and people out and about, pulls them maybe from Brownies Beach down to the downtown. So another thing, you know, in conjunction with a canoe race and other things we can do.
Yeah,
So I think there's lots of opportunities.
I think that's great.
Kind of fun.
Yeah.
Along with that, we could also ask the forestry department, the school, they want to do like woodsman's competition type of thing.
That'd be fun.
Taxes.
Axe throwing.
We could have the throwing axes in conjunction with our brewing tasting.
Yeah.
Or with Dan's
Say
speed
that,
that
but
he's
there's
gonna
no
be.
bars
we'll-
about
we'll
that.
figure it out.
Yeah.
There's no one here from the PTO, right? I assume, because that's something that's come up talking with people too. They said, oh, it was in June, but like teachers were there, the dunk booth was there. And one thing I had, which I thought would be cool, they do it for Fireman Field Day, is the water slide on that hill. Seems like if we focused, if PTO was involved and was able to get teachers involved and whatever it is they might try to do over towards ASA, I think that a water slide would be really cool.
That would be cool.
For kids.
With a touch a truck type of thing with an Orono fire department and police cruiser, something
Yeah.
that works.
Right.
Yeah, that could be, you start with the breakfast, the pancake breakfast in the morning, and a lot of events as it gets warmer hopefully in the middle of the day. And
Is there a list someplace that the town keeps of all town organizations? So that we make sure that we connect with those people and ask them if they'd like to have a table or they'd like to do an activity, whether, you know, previously, the churches in Orono were very involved. They had tables. And it was a way for them to say, hey, we're here, you know, you can come to church at this time, but here's a slice of pie too.
Mhm.
We have to have pie because
Yeah.
it's the pie in the sky race and that is,
Well, I will
the
volunteer
prizes are usually pies.
to
so
try and be Alice Smith.
The medals are usually, if I'm have the energy for it, are forks. So, you know.
I like, yeah.
Get the pie thing.
You had me at pie and you lost me when you said hill.
You could be a course marshal,
Yeah,
go that way.
I can make it up a hill.
I don't-
There's not like, yeah, I think we have a new community engagement director.
Okay.
And we're gonna talk about Orono, Orono Voices Matters. We're getting a little preview presentation or initial, he's been on the job 2 months, so why not? No better time than to come before the council and the entire community and talk about what you know about what you're doing. Maybe we're gonna take it easy on him, but, I think that's kind of micro targeting that I think that the town, one of the challenges I think we have when we communicate is that, you know, just posting stuff to the website. I mean, we've got some good traction in the Facebook group and there's a parents listserv and some neighborhood listservs that are helpful. But we got to think about how we micro target and, you know, have a list of people and you won't get spammed, wherever that list is, but have an ability to communicate with people in a way that, and the groups can get the word out. So, you know, the health association can be a partner in getting the word out and you know, you've got a network of people and Linda has a network of people and we got the geezers and the sneakers and we got the bikers and drinkers. And we got a lot of people around this, parents, we have a lot of people around this table. And if we all lean into everybody's networks, you can reach people in a hurry, so. Any other? We can I just read these ideas from the teasers and then maybe we talk about next steps? Is that okay? Is that a good spot for us now?
Yeah.
Okay. Pancake breakfast, hosting the firehouse, done in the past. Charge enough to cover costs and make a profit for a good cause. Pie in the Sky Fun Run, that was on here, 5K, doesn't say anything about hills. Good, you could raise some money, beat a geezer fun,
You
walk.
gotta go down and up. So.
Yeah, I know. I walk up and down the hill to OVC all the time, but usually there's a
Different
break for a burger in between. Beat a geezer fun walk, beginning it. I like that we can lean into the fact that geezers are like
Yeah, I love it. They could
a group,
totally-
a demographic that we can
Yeah.
label. And I try not to label people.
There are a lot of us, you
Yeah.
know, in town.
And you're not
It's
one.
a big group
You're
of
not
people.
one either.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I get the discount on Tuesdays, at the IGA. Give me that discount. But then they card me when they want to sell me a, you know, bottle of. Beat a geezer fun walk, beginning in the downtown of all ages and first 20 participants under the age of 15 that beat a geezer to the finish line, at least one of the first 3 geezers over the age of 70 that finish win a prize. I like it. Faster than a speeding geezer. Good t-shirt. I like your idea about the art thing. Cakewalk, each participant pays $1 to participate. All dollars go to the worthy Orono cause. When the recorded music starts, you walk in a circle and 10 other people around 11 numbers chalked on the pavement. When the music stops, you stop on a number. So, okay, and then we got oral bike tour of neighborhoods, Stillwater paddler activity, dance lessons on the UCU terrace. Oh, I like that. Visible, yeah. There's nobody, I
Yeah, that
can't.
would be really fun. We haven't leveraged that yet.
Yeah, no, we
Because
haven't.
it's new.
Yeah, and when it comes to dancing, what I got can't be taught.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, it's better than mine. I can't be watched.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. I'll watch you. I'll watch you. I'll make you feel comfortable. We do a performance stage with a flatbed truck in front of the hardware store. We picked that one up. Your card is punched as a performer, but not just for listening. Is there like a
Yeah,
punch
'cause
card?
there's a punch card prize.
Yeah, oh, I like it. Don't take. Apparently $75 a day for main equipment party rental. We priced that out. Add that to the budget. Dunk a Democrat, dunk a Republican, so that could be Leo. If we're gonna do any politics at all.
Politics.
Yeah.
Well, there's dunk council.
Where are we gonna find a Republican in this town?
You could just dunk counselors, you
Yeah.
know?
Local business and community organization tables. I like that. Orono Brew Festival. Yeah, Orono Craft Breweries, invite adult participants. And you know, I mean, you think about it, there's a start of the day with a breakfast, a bookend with an evening dinner, and then, you know, kind of after hours in Orono type thing. Where, yep. Orono After Dark. And then a dog walk parade. Like, we're a walkable community. We're an outdoor walkable community on the edge of the Maine wilderness. Yeah. So that's,
The speeding, the faster than a speeding geezer, like the geezers and the fun run could be.
absolutely.
Yes. Awesome, often costumes, you know, so.
I like it.
I think we
Faster than
can
a-
leverage the geezers, they're great.
Dogs in costumes, yeah.
All right,
To help with that part, that would be really excellent.
all right, so in terms of next steps, is there, we got a meeting. On the committee's gonna meet with the university folks on the 4th, April 4th. And at 4 o'clock. Then we've got if we map out some next steps and invite people to another, is this time of day? When's today? Tuesday at 6, a month from now, kind of work for people, kind of check in again? Is that, I don't know what's our, we don't have a budget hearing, we don't have a budget hearing or anything like that.
So do we get to have beer somewhere? I mean.
Yeah, we're open till 10,
yeah.
Tuesday.
So Tuesday,
Yeah.
we could meet at Marsh Island if we want to, do you have room, you don't have room, you set aside room for people?
Yeah, I can set like half of the. Additional,
I mean,
and we
you
have
guys
other
are meeting
options
at
besides
OBC, we gotta.
Oh,
I
I got the, yeah,
Nothing.
I have swag from both, I don't drink a beer unless it's brewed in Oregon.
Yeah.
Kind of my. But I'm the one guy there who has the mug, and I buy 2 non-alcoholic beers, and it fills up my mug perfectly, so I don't have to actually drink a real beer, so. But I get that.
Mitch is saying that there's nothing on Tuesdays and maybe Tuesday, April 15th, that is tax day. We could all remember the date.
Let's do it.
Do you want to try it at your, would people be okay? Would that be all right, Mitch? Are we gonna break any rules if we gather at Marsh Island?
I'm not gonna be able to zoom it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Matt, which Tuesday is ready?
That's the first.
First Tuesday.
So Tuesday, April 15th in the tasting room. Thank you very much. At 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mug 66, I'll have mug stickers on my book by then. All right, so we'll get an email, I'll get an email back around, we'll get,
How's the sound in that space? Just for people who have any hearing issues? Is it? quiet
Well,
enough?
I'll turn like the music off, you know, because we have just background music playing, like, we'll make sure it's.
Awesome. I got
And we'll be closer together too.
yeah,
Sounds good.
And again, we don't just sell beer, we sodas and water.
Yep.
So,
non-alcoholics, 69 calories a piece. So
no. Water has 0 calories.
I know it does.
And it's way more than.
Yeah. So we'll get, anybody have anything else? So we'll get an email around to everybody who participated. I'm gonna grab the Zoom, I'm gonna run it through my little AI thing and we'll get a transcript. And so I'll get a summary and a transcript around to people of the stuff we talked about. And a report back from the university. No one's been voluntold that they're on the committee yet, but if you show up at the next meeting, we're kind of leaning into the fact that you want to help. But I think that we'll start thinking about who the other groups are that we should be reaching out to. And we'll start framing this thing up. Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a good night.
Yeah, next month.
Thank you.